What's going on, everyone? I'm just a typical, average American here today to react and learn about the truth about Canadian healthcare, and I'll try to explain what that means. As Americans, when we talk about healthcare systems, usually we just say America, bad, Canada, good. And generally, based on what I've learned, that's actually pretty accurate, pretty true to say that. And I'm really interested in watching this video, though, because it's going to talk about some of the lesser known aspects of Canadian healthcare that Americans like myself we don't really get to hear about very much. This video is going to talk about both the pros and the cons of the Canadian healthcare system, and I feel like that's really great to get a full, well-rounded picture of what the Canadian healthcare system offers, so I can really compare it accurately to the American healthcare system. I still feel like the Canadian system is going to come out on top, but this video just intrigued me. The truth about Canadian healthcare. I want to get to the truth, so let's take a look.
Why can't America's healthcare system be more like Canada's?
Yeah.
Here's
yeah.
what most people who ask that question think they know about Canadian-style healthcare.
Oh, okay.
1, everybody gets covered.
Yeah.
2, it's free. 3, it's great.
Oh, man. This video's already making me question everything I think I know, which is good. I think that's great. Everyone gets covered? I think that's true in Canada. That's kind of the selling point. That's the part we really like here in America, the idea that everyone is covered. I guess you have to be a Canadian citizen. You have to pay your taxes, which goes to point number 2 here. It's free. A lot of Americans think Canadian healthcare is free. A lot of Americans even call it like, oh, we need free healthcare, like Canada. And that's not technically true. It's paid for using Canadian taxes, right? That's how that gets done. It doesn't come out of nowhere. Which I think is like a really great way to do it. Honestly, as an American who kind of has no idea at times what on earth our government is spending our taxes on, besides our military budget, I can always count on that. I would love the idea of knowing that my taxes are going towards healthcare coverage for me and everyone. I would love that. That would be great. I would sleep soundly at night. So I think it's not free, but it's great. Like, I'm really quite envious of that. And speaking of it's great, number 3, it sounds great. Maybe this video can point out some, like, contrarian views that I'm not thinking of? I don't know.
Number 1 is true. Everybody is covered.
Right.
Number 2 is false. Nothing is free.
Right.
Canadians pay for their insurance through their taxes.
Yeah,
And
right.
as you might expect, the tax rates in Canada are very high.
Okay, so is that one of the first cons they're pointing out? I don't actually know in detail how taxes in Canada compare to taxes in the United States. Here in the United States, you're taxed based on your income. And you are taxed for things like Social Security and other things that are supposed to help you out with your retirement later in life. But I'd actually be real curious to directly compare who pays more taxes, Canadians or Americans. Because Canadians are getting taxed on the healthcare, which is kind of an extra thing.
And number 3 is, well, let's just say it's questionable.
Oh, okay. Here we have it. Already the contrarian viewpoint coming up. I like this. Is it great? Maybe. Apparently it's questionable. Let's see.
Let's find out how questionable.
Okay.
But before we do, let me tell you a bit about me.
I'll tell you, just before he starts, I'll tell you what's questionable. The entire American healthcare system, that's questionable. So I'm still waiting for this video to kind of sway me one way or the other.
I was born and raised in Montreal, Canada.
Okay.
That makes me French-Canadian.
Right.
I'm so French-Canadian, my name, Alan, is spelled A-L-A-I-N.
Wow.
I have also lived
That's the most French-Canadian thing I've ever heard of.
and worked in the United States.
Oh, he's worked and lived in the United States, and therefore has partook in our healthcare system. Fantastic.
I've experienced both Canadian healthcare and American healthcare.
Yes.
Here are some of my experiences with the Canadian system,
Okay.
the one so many Americans aspire to.
Yeah, very true statement. I think that's why it's great that there's videos like this, because the prevailing school of thought really is like Americans basically overwhelmingly are envious of the Canadian healthcare system, and we feel powerless to change ours and make it better. So,
I believe they are typical. So do the Canadians I know. Experience number one. In September 2000, my wife was 7 months pregnant with our youngest daughter.
okay.
One day, my wife started having severe lower back pain. She suspected kidney stones.
Oh.
She had them in the past,
Oh,
but she was very pregnant, so we needed to check it out.
right.
Kidney stones are bad, but something going wrong with the pregnancy would be a lot worse.
Okay. So this is a good example. I mean, as much of a medical emergency as you can have without like your leg being broken and you need immediate care or you're gonna die or lose a leg. This is like right up to like right under that. Like this needs immediate attention for a serious problem. How did the Canadian healthcare system address it?
We went to the emergency room of our local hospital in Montreal. This was Thursday. She was admitted to the hospital and given morphine for her pain.
Okay.
She couldn't get an ultrasound the next day because the machine for this procedure was fully booked.
Oh. Oh, okay. So this is the first part. This is the first time I'm hearing something kind of negative. I mean, she was admitted the same day she came. They didn't talk about her waiting time in the emergency room, which is a criticism I've heard before, is that Canadian waiting times to see your primary care physician or to get a new doctor, or to get seen in the emergency room, that it can take a while. Whereas here in America, I mean, you're paying up the wazoo for it, so you are seen fairly quickly. Depends on where you live. If you're in a super populated area, it could take you a little more time, but if you're not in the most populated area ever, like anytime I've had to go to the emergency room for something, I've had a kidney stone before, coincidentally. I was seen and in a bed getting treatment in like 10 minutes or 15 minutes. So that's one of the good things about the American healthcare system is it's incredibly expensive, but if you can afford it, or if you have a healthcare plan, you get really great fast care, which I will say that's a nice thing. So in Canada, in this situation, she was seen pretty quickly, admitted. The ultrasound machine was booked. I've never been a pregnant woman before, believe it or not. So I don't know if this is a common occurrence or not in the United States.
She didn't get the ultrasound during the weekend either because ultrasound operators don't work on weekends.
What?
Finally, on Monday afternoon, she got the test after I begged her doctor to do something so we could find out if indeed my wife had a kidney stone or something had gone wrong with the pregnancy.
I do feel like this situation would not happen in the United States. I would be really shocked if you couldn't get an ultrasound done the same day or the next day. And there's ultrasound techs that are off on the weekend. Like, I also would never have thought that was a thing either.
Thank God it was the former and not the latter.
Ah, kidney stone.
In the United States, a pregnant woman doesn't have to wait a day to get an ultrasound if the baby's health is in question.
Right.
And ultrasound technicians are available on the weekend.
Right. I was thinking this sounded odd. So, there are some trade-offs with the Canadian healthcare system. Man, this makes it so difficult when you're comparing it like this to decide what would you rather have. Would you rather risk having huge bills, risk not being able to pay for your healthcare, but get it when you need it? Or would you rather be covered all the time, not worry about expenses, but possibly not have access to the care when you need it? That's very difficult. I guess it would depend on how much money you're making, your financial situation.
Experience number 2. One of my friends struggled with back issues for years. Eventually, he needed surgery.
Okay.
Like all people with non-life threatening conditions in Canada, he was placed on a waiting list.
Oh, okay.
The pain got so bad, after a few months, he went to see the specialist and pleaded for an operation.
There's a lot of pleading going on. There's a lot of begging and pleading going on, which is a little disturbing. I don't know how normal this is. I kind of have to go off his experiences a bit, his healthcare experiences. I don't know if that's the experiences other Canadians are having as well. Feel free to let me know in the comments, by the way, your personal experiences, if they confirm or contrast with what he is saying about these waiting times and having to beg for treatment. In the United States, to some extent, you'd certainly be seen based on the priority of your condition, how much you need care. But if you're getting like a back surgery and you're in pain, I don't think you would be waiting months. You would definitely be seen. Like you'd be put not on a waiting list, but on a schedule, and your dates would come and you'd go in and do it, from what I understand.
The specialist asked, "Are you suicidal?" My friend responded, "No, I'm not suicidal. I need a back operation."
Wow.
The specialist concluded, "If you are not suicidal, it means you can handle the pain."
Whoa. Whoa. I've not heard that one before. That's the criteria for whether you deserve a back operation that's going to get you out of pain? You don't need this operation unless you're going to kill yourself from the pain. That's the level of pain you need to be in. That's very strange to me. And I think that would be a very, very difficult situation for anyone to try to handle. And you'd feel quite powerless in that situation. Wow, that's very interesting. I guess at least in the United States, if you're willing to fork up the money, they're gonna see you. Is that true in Canada? Can you like just pay? Can you just like pass some money on the table over to the doctor and be like, "Can you see me now?" And they're like, "This is $20." And you slide $50 over. "Can you get me into the operation now?" But seriously, this is a disturbing story.
Had my friend waited, his surgery would have been covered. Instead, he went to Florida and
Oh.
paid $20,000 out of his own pocket to have the surgery immediately.
Wow. I mean, that's what I was wondering. So if you can't really pay to just have it done in Canada. I think in the US they would have seen him quicker. I don't know why that is. Are there just so many Canadians in need of healthcare that the waiting list is so long? Like, it still doesn't explain why in America it seems like it feels like here you wouldn't be on such a long list of waiting. I don't know what explains that. I doubt we do our operations any quicker. It's just, I think in Canada you can get stuck low down on the waiting list forever if your priority is deemed really low. Is that fair to say? It's the only way I can kind of explain this. So he went to Florida. He had to go to the United States because he wanted the operation now. He had to pay out of pocket the full cost, $20,000 for back surgery. Americans would not pay $20,000. Your insurance would pay a large part of that, 80% or 90% based on your plan. And you'd probably end up paying like a couple $1,000s. But wow, these are some very interesting stories about Canadian healthcare. Really eye-opening, actually.
In the United States, if you're in terrible pain, you can get a back surgery within days.
Yeah.
Experience number
I agree with that. That's I haven't had back surgery, but from people I know, like that is the situation when you need something done, and it doesn't necessarily have to save your life. If you need something done, it gets done. Which I guess I never really appreciated as much. I just thought that was kind of the way it is. We pay a lot of money for our insurance plans and out-of-pocket expenses and deductibles and all these extra fees. And the trade-off is we appear to be seen quicker, which is actually quite nice, like with healthcare. That's a good trade-off, actually. When you're in pain and suffering, you don't really care about money that much. Now, if you're really, really struggling financially, then it doesn't matter how much pain you're in, you do have to care about money, or your way of life could go by the wayside. So it's still not perfect.
3. Several years ago, I was diagnosed with polyps in my colon. Since I have a family history of colon cancer,
Oh.
I was advised to get a colonoscopy every year.
Right.
I went to see my specialist in May to set up my next procedure. After a brief consult, he told me to book the colonoscopy with his secretary on my way out.
Okay.
She told me that the doctor could perform the procedure in November. Being used to long waiting times, I felt that was rather short. So I said, great, that works
Okay. How long of a wait was that?
every year. I went to see my specialist in May to
May? June, July, August, September, October, November. 6 months? Wait a minute. Wait, is he saying he gets his colonoscopy in 6 months? And that's considered a short waiting time? I knew about Canadian long healthcare wait times, but this is just ridiculous. I've never heard of this before. 6 months to get your colonoscopy? Is that normal?
with his secretary on my way out. She told me that the doctor could perform the procedure in November. Being used to long waiting times, I felt that was rather short.
That is
So I
long.
said, great, that works for me.
Oh my god.
She replied, not this November, next November. In the United States,
I don't want to laugh, but that's absurd. That's absurd. This is literally like screening for pre-cancer checkup in your colon. You literally can't wait a year and a half. That's actually scary. That's actually disturbing. Again, is this a common occurrence in Canada? Why is it like that? Why would a wait time have to be that long? I get it. I understand the idea of long wait times. If it's a system of priority and who needs care first, and I guess because everyone is covered, everyone goes in and gets care when you need health care, which is fantastic. But maybe it's like overloading the system, or maybe there's not enough doctors? What's the explanation for the long wait times? That's scary, actually. Scary in a different way. That healthcare is scary in the United States. This is scary in a different way. Huh, and I've never thought about that before.
in the United States, you can get a colonoscopy in a few days, and certainly within a few weeks.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Experience number 4.
Huh.
Just recently, a friend had a biopsy for prostate cancer. He had to wait 3 months to get the results.
Wow.
Sadly, the test came back positive. The earliest he could have surgery was 3 months after receiving the diagnosis.
Oh, that's terrifying. That's so terrifying. Literally knowing that you have cancer growing on inside of you, you want it out as quickly as possible. And knowing that you're powerless, you have to wait. That's terrifying. I would think that would be a very high priority surgery to have. Why? But 3 months is apparently lightning fast in Canada. Interesting.
Needless to say, cancer doesn't care about waiting lists. It grows and it spreads, sometimes beyond the point when treatment can be effective.
Uh-huh.
I pray that my friend gets treated in time. In the United States,
Wow.
you don't have to wait 3 months to get the results of a biopsy, or wait 3 months after that to get surgery if you need it. But here's the good news. Canadian hospice care is first rate, caring and compassionate.
Oh boy.
Once you're terminal, they take very good care of you.
Oh, that's dark. That's dark. That's sad. Oh my god. Wow. I guess he's trying to make a point here, and he's doing a good job.
That's the Canadian system for you. And that's what you aspire to? I can tell you who will be really bummed out if you adopt it. Canadians. When we're in trouble, we know where to go. The USA.
I've never heard that. I've never thought about it like that, ever. Again, this is just the experiences of this guy, this Canadian, which I trust he's telling the truth. and I trust these experiences are genuine. I'd love to know if this is a common occurrence among Canadians, because this is really, really opening my eyes up to the pros and the cons of the Canadian healthcare system, and I'm trying to weigh them against the pros and cons of the American system. And there's definitely pros and cons of each. And it's becoming harder and harder to determine like which are the better pros or worse cons, and this was a very eye-opening video. So the United States is actually seen as like, okay, you're gonna have to pay out the wazoo for healthcare, surgery, or whatever. But at least if you can do that, if you can afford it, you can get the treatment immediately. Which is kind of, it's like the US is like this like last-ditch effort available to Canadians in a way. Canadians can always be like, okay, I need this right now. I'm going to America and I'm going to pay for this. It's honestly kind of a nice, it's almost like the hidden level of the Canadian healthcare system is the American system. The desperate, like, okay, I'll go to America and get it done. I've never heard of that.
Don't go the Canadian route, America. Make your healthcare system better, not worse. As our great Canadian singer-songwriter Joni Mitchell says in one of her most famous songs, you don't know what you've got till it's gone.
So, I mean, this Canadian is, to me, pretty clearly anti-Canadian healthcare. This whole video just makes me feel like instead of America completely adopting straight up the Canadian healthcare system, there's some kind of hybrid of the two. If that's possible, that would be the best way to do it. I'm definitely not the one to make that decision or determine how that would work, but just based on what I've seen here, some kind of combination of the two.
I'm Alain Lambert for Prager University.
Wow. That was not what I was expecting with this video, actually. I don't know what I was expecting. With a title like The Truth About Canadian Healthcare, I was like, okay, there's going to be like some small little drawbacks to the healthcare system in Canada. It's not really going to sway me one way or the other. This did sway me. This swayed me. I'd love to hear more about other Canadians' experiences with this. The waiting times, that was kind of the point of this video. Diving really in depth about Canadian healthcare wait times and that how that affects what Canadians think about the Canadian healthcare system. Now, I imagine for most things, most healthcare issues, Canadians are pretty happy. Like that you can go to your doctor or physician for free healthcare, quote unquote free healthcare whenever you need it. When it's something much, much more serious, that's when these kind of blurry lines seem to form about what's better and what's worse. But this video was quite good, quite interesting. I appreciated this Canadian sharing his stories, and I actually enjoyed this quite a bit. I feel like it really opened my mind up to the different possibilities and ways of doing healthcare. And how the Canadian healthcare system really works, the best parts and the worst parts of it. So I enjoyed this quite a bit. Anyway, if you enjoyed this as well, feel free to give this video a like or leave a comment. Again, feel free to talk about your experience with the Canadian healthcare system, if it aligns with what he was talking about, with wait times or having to travel to the US for care right now, or which system you think is better, or if there's pros and cons of each healthcare system. That's what it kind of seems like. Any of that would be fantastic to hear about. And if you're interested in more videos like this, me reacting to Canada and Canadian culture, feel free to subscribe for more. And until then, thanks for watching, and see you next time.